Hello, I'm continuing my reviews on the Alien series with Prometheus. Now, Prometheus was directed by Ridley Scott, and this is a prequel to Ridley Scott's 1979 horror science fiction classic, Alien. Now, the film is co-written by Damon Lindelof, who also was one of the writers on Lost, and he also wrote movies like Cowboys and Aliens, and Star Trek Into Darkness, and Tomorrowland. Now, Prometheus is technically the fifth film in the Alien franchise. However, if you include the Alien vs. Predator movies, which there were two of them as being part of the franchise, that means this is technically the seventh film in the Alien series. Now, I do want to briefly touch on the Alien vs. Predator movies. Now, I'm not going to be reviewing the Alien vs. Predator movies now. When I get around to reviewing the Predator films, which might not be till next October, then I'll review the Alien vs. Predator movies when I review the Predator films. But in between this and Alien Resurrection, you had two Alien vs. Predator movies. You had Alien vs. Predator in 2004, and then you had Aliens vs. Predator Requiem in 2007. Now, this film is a prequel to Alien. However, technically, when you think about it, the Aliens vs. Predator movies were also kind of prequels to Alien as well, because if you consider those movies to be canon, those movies were set in present time, while Alien is set 100 years in the future. So technically, if you consider them to be canon, technically those are prequels to Alien. Now, I am aware that it is debatable whether or not the Alien vs. Predator movies are actually canon, but once again, if you do consider them to be canon, they are technically Alien prequels. Now, I'm not saying those movies are any good, but if you actually watch the first Alien vs. Predator movie, it's clear that it's trying to be canon. Now, one of the reasons I bring the Aliens vs. Predator movies up is because they are, in a way, prequels to the first Alien movie, but then you have this movie, which is also a prequel to Alien, but this movie, whether or not you considered the Aliens vs. Predator movies to be canon or not, this film definitely does seem to completely ignore Alien vs. Predator, because in this movie, you essentially do see how the xenomorphs come to be, and if Aliens vs. Predator is still canon, that's still set years and years before the events of this movie, so it does not appear with this movie that they're counting the Alien vs. Predator movies as being canon. However, I have heard that there is a comic book series that actually does try to connect Alien vs. Predator to Prometheus. Now, Prometheus, it is a prequel to Alien, but at the same time, it does very much stand on its own. Like, it's a prequel to Alien in the sense that it is set in the same universe, and it's supposed to be set like 30 years before the events of Alien, but it's not necessarily a direct prequel to Alien. Actually, this movie is actually the first of what I heard was going to be a planned trilogy, and apparently the other two films in the Prometheus series will connect more to Alien. Now, I just recently rewatched Prometheus for this review, and rewatching it, it was actually my first time seeing this movie since the movie came out in theaters back in 2012. Now, I liked Prometheus when I first saw it, and Honestly, I still like Prometheus. I personally do think this is a good movie. Now, this is somewhat of a polarizing movie, like, some people love it and some people hate it. I personally like the film, I definitely don't hate it, but I do have some issues with the film. Really, my biggest issues with this film really is it just has a lot of plot holes in it, but I've heard that there are actually a lot of deleted scenes from this that were deleted from this movie, and apparently a lot of those deleted scenes actually fill in a lot of the plot holes. For example, there's a scene in this movie where a character sees this snake-like alien creature, and he starts going up to it going, "Oh, come here, baby, come here, cute little girl," and it's like, what the hell are you doing, man? The thing probably feels threatened, so why the hell are you going up to it? But I've heard that there actually is a deleted scene that takes place before that, where he finds another creature similar to that is harmless, so he thinks that this other creature is harmless too, but they cut that out of the movie, and really that just created a plot hole. So I'm told that a lot of the deleted scenes from this movie actually fill in a lot of the plot holes, and I do think that's the movie's biggest flaw, is that it has so many deleted scenes in it that it just taken from it, that it just creates a lot of really unnecessary plot holes. But despite the plot holes in this movie, it's still a pretty interesting film. Now, the plot of Prometheus is, it follows a group of scientists who believe that life on this planet was actually put here by an alien race, and eventually they find a solar system light years away from Earth that they believe this alien race is at. So in the movie, they end up on this planet and they find all the dead bodies of these alien beings, which in the movie they call the engineers, and these are the alien beings that apparently created all life on Earth, and it appears that they've all been wiped out by something that they created. And basically what these engineers created was an alien parasite that pretty much runs the risk of infecting all these scientists who end up on this planet. So that's the basic plotline of Prometheus, and essentially in this movie you see what leads to the creation of the xenomorphs. And a xenomorph does show up in this movie, but not till towards the end of the movie. Now, once again, I liked Prometheus despite the plot holes that are in the movie. I thought it was a really interesting science fiction film and had a lot of really unique and intriguing ideas. Now, one thing that I really liked about this movie was kind of the religious theme that's in the film, and some people complained about the religious theme that's in the film, but to me, the whole theme of religion is actually really appropriate given the subject matter of this film. Because, think about it, this whole movie, it deals with the concept of the human race being created by an alien race, and obviously I think finding information like that out really would be a big deal, and let's say we as the human race did discover that we were created by extraterrestrial beings, that really would change everything and change people's beliefs, and so I really do think that the subject of religion in this movie really is appropriate given the subject matter of this film. And in the movie you have a character named Elizabeth Shaw who is the main character of the movie, and she's a very religious person, and you could tell that she's trying to incorporate her religious beliefs into this information about the engineers. Kind of the same way some religious people try to incorporate their beliefs into the theory of evolution, like they try to incorporate their religious beliefs into actual scientific facts. Like the character of Elizabeth Shaw, she was one of the main scientists who organized this trip to go out and find the engineers, so she for the longest time did believe that we were put here by alien beings, even though she also believed in God. And in the movie, they don't say it flat out, but you really do get the idea that really her looking for the engineers is her own way of trying to find God, and you could tell that in a weird way, she might also kind of believe that the engineers are angels in a way. So, I actually really liked a lot of the religious aspects of this movie, and it's nothing like thrown in your face or anything, it's just ideas that are kind of brought about in the film, and I thought they were really interesting and intriguing ideas. Also, in this movie, there's very much the theme of what does it mean to be human, and what is mankind's place in the universe. And this movie has a pretty good cast, too. In the film, the character of Elizabeth Shaw is played by... Now, I'm gonna butcher this actress's name. It's Noomi Rapace. I know I'm butchering her name, but she was also in the Swedish version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, as well as the girl who played with fire and the girl who kicked the hornet's nest, where she played the character of Elizabeth Salander. And she's a great actress, and she does a really good job in this film. The film also has Charlize Theron in it, and she does do a really good job in the film as well. The film also stars Idris Elba, or Idris Elba, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. The film also stars Guy Pearce as Peter Weyland, who in the film you realize is actually the founder of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation that you saw in the other Alien films. Now, he does do a good job in this movie, like, he's a good actor. My biggest problem, though, is he's a relatively young man, Guy Pearce, and he's playing an old man in this movie, and I really saw no reason why they couldn't just get an older actor to play that character, because you could so clearly tell that it's a young man with old man makeup on him, and I really freaking hate that in movies where you see, like, an old man character and it's so clearly just makeup. I mean, why don't they just get an older actor to play the character? Now, perhaps my favorite performance in this movie, and the character that he plays in this movie is perhaps my favorite character in the film, and that is Michael Fassbender as the character of David. Now, David is an android, and he's by far the most interesting character in this movie. Now, of course, this is not the first time you see androids in the Alien franchise, but he is a very unique character because you could tell that he's very much envious of humans, and throughout the film he's really trying to figure out what it is like to be human, and you could tell that he definitely does have some emotions. So yeah, once again, I like Prometheus. I recognize that the film does have its flaws, but I still personally enjoy the film. Now, the film does bear a lot of similarities to the H.P. Lovecraft novella At the Mountains of Madness, and at the time this movie was being made, Guillermo del Toro actually wanted to do an adaptation of the novella At the Mountains of Madness, but he dropped the project when this movie was being made because this movie has such a similar idea to At the Mountains of Madness. Now, apparently Ridley Scott wanted the engineers in this movie to come off as being kind of similar to the fallen angels from the John Milton poem Paradise Lost. Now, there has been talks of them doing a sequel to this movie, and I believe Ridley Scott does want to do a sequel to this. Now, I've heard when this movie first came out that this was going to be part of a planned trilogy, and apparently, like, the third film in the trilogy would be more of a direct prequel to Alien. Like, apparently, the third movie in this trilogy would end where the movie Alien picked up. Now, besides continuing on with the Prometheus series, there is actually going to be another Alien movie, and apparently Sigourney Weaver will be reprising her role as Ripley, and apparently Hicks is also going to be coming back in this new Alien movie as well. So apparently this is going to be a direct sequel to Aliens, and it's going to ignore the continuity of Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. Now, the guy who's directing this new Alien movie is the same guy who directed the movie District 9, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually pretty excited for it, but I am a little worried though, because the guy who's directing this movie, like, District 9 was a great movie, but I haven't seen his other two movies, but I've heard a lot of mixed things about his other two movies, so I'm definitely a little worried, and even if he can do a good job with this new one, my biggest worry is that because his last two movies didn't do too well in the box office, my biggest worry is that 20th Century Fox is really gonna be up his ass when he's directing this one. Like, my biggest worry is that they might do to him what they did to David Fincher for Alien 3. But hopefully this new Alien movie will be good, and hopefully whatever Prometheus movies get made are good as well. So yeah, that's my review on Prometheus, and this ends my series of reviews on the Alien franchise, and bye.